again, everyone. Welcome to our next episode of the Hilltop podcast, featuring Chaminade personalities, former teachers, current teachers, and legendary alums. We are fortunate to have one of those legendary alums with us today, 2016 grad Mikey Lewis, who is with us. I think Mikey wins the prize for being the furthest guest, the furthest away. We're talking to him today from France. Also, I think you have the honor, Mikey, of being the youngest guest. I think you might be our youngest alum who's been featured. So thanks for joining us, Mike.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
I just wanted to start out. Recently, I've been starting out some of these with a bit of a quote from a person or persons who knew you well during your Chaminade time. So I'm going to start out maybe with a quote most appropriately from Coach Bennett, your coach here during your time at Chaminade. Coach Bennett describes Mike as a high character person who was instrumental in our championship basketball run in 2016, culminating in hitting two back-to-back threes to give us separation in that championship game. Mikey's leadership and disposition always brought people together to pursue a common goal. In conclusion, Mikey is an example of what team players should be, and his in his high school career, along with his peers, gave the basketball program momentum to build into what it is today. So, some nice words said about you there, Mr. Lewis. How you feel about that?
I feel honored. I mean, to be able to put on the Chaminade jersey was already a privilege, and it was something I made sure I never wanted to take advantage of or not understand the significance of. And then just listening to that quote and then the back-to-back threes, going back into the memory of that moment was finally getting over that hump. All the attention that team had, all the pressure we had as 14, 15, 16 year olds. As a 27-year-old now looking back, it's like we were so far ahead of our years. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy, but to be able to have a moment, in that type of game with the same game, Jason became number one leading scorer ever. He had, I think, like 30 points in the first half, and then Tyler had a significant moment as well. Will, like pretty much everybody that was on that team had a moment, that kind of capitalized us, win the championship for the school, getting over that hump finally, and then most of us being our senior year for that to be the way we go out. It's still something that we also talk about to this day. So
For sure. I'm going to start at the beginning, but before I get to the beginning of young Mikey Lewis, let's talk about that the championship game, or at least that run to the championship there in 2016, just a little bit more. You already alluded to kind of what I wanted to talk about is that pressure. Even as a faculty member, I sort of felt I could imagine that you guys were under pressure. Certainly a very, very talented team and class. Had come up short in the previous year in the Final Four, your sophomore year, losing in the district final. Um, just talk a little bit more about that pressure and how much of you did you guys really feel it, or did you guys get to enjoy it, or a little bit of both?
I for sure say it was a little bit of both. I'll start with sophomore year. That was kind of when we all first were together. Um, we were so young. We didn't understand. We didn't care. We cared about the game and winning, but we didn't care about what everybody else was saying. We were 15. A lot of us had gotten starting getting scholarship looks for college at that point, so we didn't really understand. So that was sophomore year, and then junior year comes around. It's like, okay, we know we're talented. We weren't an arrogant team, but at the same time, we were just thinking, okay, well, we're so talented. We work hard. It's going to get done. And then we run into a horror. Probably, I don't know the statistics, but I'm gonna put everything that I have saying that probably was the worst shooting game we've had together in general. That Final Four game, my junior year, and to lose like that when you're so close. One, it humbled us and it brought us together more than winning that year would have. And I remember in the locker room after we all wiped our tears, which took about an hour or two. um, we're like, look, next year, this is our last year. We're all going to college, cool, but we can't beat the team to not win. Like we have too much in this locker room, if we're being completely honest with each other. So, that summer we all worked really hard. We all had great AAU tournaments. And then senior year, we just came together and we had one goal. We didn't care about anything else. Our goal was to win a championship. And to be able to understand that and okay, the pressure is whatever, but I think at 17, 18, to be able to have that type of focus for sure catapulted us into life in general. Um, so did we feel the pressure? Yeah, for sure. Especially that last year, we knew what it was, but we embraced it, and that was something that Coach Bennett talked to us about almost every day in practice. Like embrace it, you know, just embrace it. You guys have way more than what you need, so just embrace it and enjoy it. You know, like you just said, and we did that, and we got it done.
Good, good. We'll talk more about that team and your high school career in a bit, but let's go back to the very beginning. I see from online, if I'm correct, unless there's some lies out there about you, you were born in Houston. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So
So I was born in Houston.
what brought you to St. Louis?
So actually, my dad got a new job position in St. Louis when I was around 7 or 8, and he was going back and forth. And his job started to pick up a lot, and he started to be gone more. So, him and my mom had a conversation, and they're like, "Well, Mikey, we know he's going to play sports. Growing up in Texas, it was football, right? It's football land." But he had a talk, and he was like, "Well, from what we see from just Pee Wee sports, he enjoys basketball more, and St. Louis is a basketball city, right? The Midwest in general, actually. So that was part of the whole decision, and then of course bringing the family all together. So when I was about 9 and a half, we moved to St. Louis, and that's kind of how all of that started. And then of course playing AAU and all that type of stuff. And then some of my dad's friends that grew up in St. Louis, like, hey, well, Chaminade has really good like summer basketball camps. Coach Lee at the time, he's a phenomenal coach. They had David Lee, Bradley, got the name and names. He's like, this is an all boys school too, which my mom loved because she was like, yeah, he can be focused. Like, go to school, be focused. Be with your friends or whatever, but we don't have to worry about dealing with the girl stuff. We'll deal with that in college. So that was music to her ears, and of course, the academic speaks for itself. So that kind of what led me into Chaminade's doors was the basketball camps in the summer, and then that's when we actually all met, which is people think oh, they were recruited, and no, we actually genuinely met at basketball camp because
Yeah, that's
that's
what I
where
was
all
going
the
to ask
players
about
go.
how much you knew those other guys.
Yeah.
We'll talk, like I said, more about them too. But Jason and Will Gladson and Tyler and such. Yeah, how much had you guys known each other, and was it sort of a conscious decision to come to Chaminade, or did you kind of
Mhm.
just sort of all end up there?
So at the camp, we kind of were just building a bond. It was summertime, and then I would say eighth grade or the summer before eighth grade, actually, Jason had told us like, yeah, I'm for sure coming here, and so did Will. So at the time, I was still kind of touring around. I'm not from St. Louis, right? So I don't really know. I'm just like, okay, I know you guys, but I'm still looking around. I was looking at Westminster at the time, Whitfield, where are my other top two. So those are my top three. And once he said he was going, I had a conversation with my parents. I was like, well, we know who he is already, right? He's already ranked, and we're 12 years old. So this team's gonna have a lot of attention. They always do. The school always does. So we're gonna have the academic part to be able to get into college first and foremost. And
Amen.
then you have the attention that you may want as far as getting scholarships for basketball. So that's when they were like, what do you want to do? Do you want to, join a band and form a pretty much a super team almost, or
Hmm.
do you kind of want to go your own route? And I was like, well, these are already some of my closest friends in the city. I don't know very many people. This is where I'm comfortable. And then you add the other stuff, it's kind of like a cherry on top. So then my eighth grade year is when I decided to go ahead and come, and then the rest kind of happens.
Amen. For sure. Early on in your career, a little bit of a change though. After I guess your freshman year, Kelvin Lee, who you mentioned, had been the coach here for a while. Chaminade is gone, and Coach Bennett brought in. Also, I think that very same off season is when Jason's dad, Justin, took the job at CBC. So maybe a little a little turmoil or a little rumble in that plan. Was there any thought of maybe moving somewhere else, or was it always Chaminade for you at that time, or how was that experience like?
So for me, I go back a year before that happened. Our freshman years, I actually played under Coach Bennett on JV. So, and he had also trained me in the summer times, like my eighth grade summer. So we had already built a relationship. Those 2 years. So once he had said, I'm going to be the new varsity coach, I was already interested just because it was someone that I had already knew. And then when the whole shebang of Mr. Tatum going to CBC. And I think we probably would have first the cap is a lot now, but we probably would have first high school group to have free agency. I feel
Right.
like so. Once that conversation kind of was going on, he was like, let me talk to my families, figure out what I'm going to do. But me personally, I was like, I'm going to stay. One, it's a great school, and my mom and both parents, but mostly my mom was like, I don't. Yeah, basketball's cool, but like you're getting an education, like because at the end of the day, even if you make it super far, basketball is gonna stop. Like you need to be able to use your brain. So there's that. So me personally, I was always gonna stay. That wasn't in my deck of cards at all. And then, once we had all kind of got together one night, just, hanging out at, I forgot, I think he was at Will's house, just kind of, talking, playing video games. And he was like, between us, like, I'm not going to leave. Like, we've already started something here. We, been friends for a long time. And then he didn't want to make a change and all that type of stuff. But yeah, so it was something for me personally. I was like, yeah, I'm here. I'm already enrolled. I'm used to I'm a consistency person too. So I'm used to the school. I'm at the faculty. Like I'm good to go. So yeah, I was going to stay regardless.
Good. Well, we're glad it worked out. So talking about let's step away from basketball just a little bit. I believe you were going to was it Hazelwood schools before you went to Hazelwood Middle School?
Yep, Hazelwood
Gotcha.
North Middle.
So what was coming to Chaminade like outside of basketball in terms of you're at a faith-based Catholic school for the first time, all boys school as you sort of mentioned. What were kind of some of your first impressions? Was there much adjustment time in the classroom, friends, that sort of thing?
Friend wise, no, it wasn't too bad. But I would say it was my first time being in a all boy institution and then a smaller institution as well. I was used to having just chaos going on around me at all times, right? You walk in a Chaminade, you get an atrium, and it's just a sense of peace. So that was new for me. Of course, it wasn't a problem, but it was something I definitely had to adjust to. Didn't have a strict dress code, but just having like in your mind, okay, like have your shirt tucked in, have a belt on, you know what I mean? Just those little things on a day-to-day basis, that discipline. I had it at home, so it was an easy adjustment for me personally. But as far as like what you're used to on a day-to-day basis, it for sure was a lot different. And then as far as the classroom, I would say one, a lot smaller class, and then the speed of it, right? Shamrock is it's a tough institution. It really is. They tell you it's going to be tough, and it is. They hold everyone to a very high standard. So keeping up with the load, I would say at first was different. Having a laptop, having a responsibility, having an email, all these things that you're, eighth grade for me at eighth grade, I'm like, wow, like, okay, let me focus. You don't have a choice. So, it challenges you a lot. I would say my adjustment period probably took me a couple months, if I'm being honest. My first week, my mom could tell the story a lot better than me, but I wasn't too happy. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, oh, this is tough. Like, it's a long day. I got real homework. Like I'm a smart guy. I used to come home, Hazelwood, just do whatever, get A's, straight A's. I'm like, I actually got to read this stuff. They giving me pop quizzes and asking me not even just like what's the title of the book or what was the first chapter's theory. No, like what is this plot and how did this person think about this? It makes you dig deep. So at first, it was for sure was a challenge. It for sure was a challenge. It took me about a good 8 weeks to kind of adjust, but once I, got in the swing of things and got a routine, and kind of just had to, buckle down. Really, it becomes a lot easier as time goes on. And
For
I'm
sure.
sure we'll talk about adulthood later, so I'm gonna save it. But I'm glad
Amen.
that glad that
Right.
I for sure.
Good. Just staying on the sort of outside of basketball, we'll talk a little bit more about Coach Bennett in just a bit. But are there other teachers that kind of maybe it was in those early days when you were struggling a little bit, or maybe it was throughout your time? Any kind of teachers or memories that stood out to you from your Chaminade time that helped you shape you outside of basketball?
Yes, the one that sticks out to me the most all the time is Mr. Denoyer,
Ah,
English teacher. My freshman year, we read the Odyssey, and I will never forget like reading this book and like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean? Like, and then I still have visions of his diagram of breaking down sentences, and it was by far him and Miss Shaw physics class
yeah.
was by far like I feel like I'm in college already. You know what I mean? So those two I think stick out the most as far as teachers. Really, really challenged me, but at the same time, it kind of taught me as well. Okay, one, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like especially Mr. Denori, he was like, Michael, you're trying. So as long as you're trying in life, like you're going to get something out of it. Now, ask for help from an expert, and then once I break this down, it'll click. But it's not going to click for you because you've never been introduced to it. So I would say, yeah, Mr. Mr. Denoyer for sure. And I bring that up too because I actually last year we had a game in Greece, and I saw the Odyssey, and I grabbed it again and started reading it as an adult, and I love it. It's one of my favorite books
Really?
now. So,
That's
yeah,
perfect. That's
full
awesome.
circle moment.
Yeah, so he's I don't know if you're familiar. He's now going to be our principal next year, so moving into the administration.
Really?
Going to
Okay.
be taking over for Mr. Rowan. So, but yeah, I know he's famous for his diagramming his sentences back in the day in the English classroom. So,
Mhm.
you're not the first one I've heard talk about that for sure. So let's talk about for Coach Bennett for a minute. What certainly I know got a close relationship with him. You know, built early, even in your freshman year, playing for him on JV, and still to this day. What in your estimation makes him a good coach? What between the lines and in the practice session, what makes him a great coach, and maybe even the slant of what makes him a great coach for Chaminade specifically.
Well, what makes him a great coach for Chaminade, I think, helps that he went there, right? Um, Understanding the school's ideology, it's a particular energy we all kind of have, right? So being able to relate to what we're dealing with in the classroom, having a personal resolve to be able to talk to us about just life in general outside of school, and then tying that in with basketball, and then him being from the school as well. I think it all kind of just meshes. I know with us, a lot of the conversations were, if I'm just like, he's an honest guy. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. You have to be older than your age. Is it fair? We'll talk about it in 10 years. But this is your reality. And as a man, Estovir, as we say all the time, when it's on something's on your plate, you're either gonna deal with it, be a man, deal with it, or you're gonna run away from it. There's just no way around it. Those were conversations that we had a lot. Um, and he held you accountable as well as, of course, okay, I understand you're a teenager and you're going through adolescence, right? So it's just this fine balance that he kind of just always had. Doesn't have to really try, it's just who he is. And I think by that just naturally being who he is, it reflects the correct way, which I think is why you see so much success rate over and in, year out with different groups, different age groups, different generations at this point. Um, because it's authentic, right? And that's something that the school preaches a lot as well. So when you have that, it kind of just goes together.
That's a great answer, great thought, and certainly describes that on the faculty, from the faculty side, sort of viewing him as a peer and working with this. You know, he's awesome to help. Hey, a student struggling in class, one of his players, he's the first one there to be able to help. Hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to connect with this guy. What go to him. So certainly he's a person, a coach, a teacher who views the whole thing, both the academic and the athletic side, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. What let's talk just a little bit about the we've mentioned it before, but the group of guys that were on that 2015 2016 team. By my calculations, I think you had 8 guys that went on to play Division One sports of some sort. Reggie Crawford went on to play football, and Jericho Helms, a couple years younger than you, then went on to a great career at NC State and is still playing as well in the pros. Tyler Cook, your classmate, still playing in the pros from Iowa. Certainly, Jason, everybody knows about his story. Yourself, Will Gladson went to play out at Prince. Isaac Olson went to play Division One baseball at Cincinnati, and Roger Campbell, also on the team, played football at Northwestern. So, what was a day to day like in a practice? I assume, a very challenging environment, pushing each other. Take us back to those practice sessions a little bit.
War. I just know there's no way around it. It was war. I mean, from summertime to mid-season, it didn't matter. We knew every day this is going to be the hardest competition we have to deal with, including when we go out and travel and play all of these ranked teams. May have a superstar here and there, but on a day-to-day basis, this is by far like this is a professional basketball team. If we're being honest, like yeah, Isaac and Roderick and Reggie went to play other sports, but they're still like the high Division 1 level athletes, right? So yeah, it's I think the best way to say it was simply war. We did not take it easy on each other. It was definitely a alpha dog environment. When we came to games, we knew how to. Okay, now we're going against the opponent. But I credit coach for that, finding that balance. But yeah, it was flat out war. I'm not gonna lie. It was even to this day. I don't think I've had a lot like that much talent in one room at one time, just iron sharpening iron on a day to day basis. Even now, like in the pros, like it's nothing like that was. That was truly. I wish social media was as big then as it is now, so we could really see. Because, man, those were some times, man.
Yeah, I think about, guys like Rod or Isaac, again, as you said, basketball maybe not even their primary sport, but a very high level athlete, and they weren't getting many minutes or, getting minutes here or there. And also the collection of some of those guys were a couple years younger, Jericho and Reggie, but the amount of people just in your class, the Chaminade class of 2016, certainly has gotten some publicity recently too from the Matthew Kachuk, who I know left early, but was originally in your grade level, your class, and but that was just an amazing collection of athletes in that 2016 class. Certainly, maybe led by basketball, but even in the other sports as well too. What no, I went blank for a second there. I was gonna say, playing off what you just said, I was thinking about this, and then you brought it up, social media. How certainly not as big. We talk about this 10 years ago already. Hard to believe it's been that long, but certainly social media has exploded in being able to sort of players, young people being able to sort of market themselves. But around you guys, even at that time, there was a lot of hoopla, there was a lot of publicity. You guys were in the newspaper, you guys were on TV all the time. How did you and the rest of the squad deal with that kind of pressure of publicity, even though it might be a little less than it might have been today?
I think the moms of that team uh, were some strong women. They did not. They didn't. They just simply did not play with us. Again, having uh, really tough father figures at home, really tough mother figures at home, and then having a nucleus of just how Chaminade was with you could come to school early. We have our school day. We all pretty much have been here since middle school, so we love to stay after school in the atrium, just the camaraderie. Then you have practice. Then if there's a Friday night, there's the football game, so you might go to Grassi's and then go to the football. I mean, you've been here from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and you don't even realize it. So I think that with okay, you have a couple interviews here, cameras come to you. But once we left, you were tired, right? Because like we talked about the academics, you actually had to do your homework. You had to study for tests. So you had that. And then you have, athletics in general, and then the extracurriculars all on campus. So we spent so much time at the school in this pretty much in this bubble. I know we now as adults we talk about it. We didn't even really realize like how much that kind of saved us probably from being able to have to deal with they're just dealing with people like, oh, you're the best thing since sliced bread, for example. Like having to deal with, of course, you hear rumblings here and there, but we spent more time together and in this institution than we did outside almost. So there were just a lot of things we just didn't have to deal with. And then having parents that understood, okay, our sons are, they're all, this whole group is going to college. And then you have one that's arguably the greatest basketball player to ever leave Missouri, right? The attention that comes with that, then the trickle down effect after that. I mean, the way that they kind of protected us and shielded us from adults that may have tried to come in and take advantage, like you couldn't. Like, you can't just come on this campus, right? So that really, I think, really sheltered us, protected us from a lot. Of course, you have to deal with a couple things here and there, but such as life. But I think just the institution. I mean, Chaminade, it really protected the whole group. And like I say, I can go through almost 1,000 different days and situations of just if we didn't have a football game, okay, we were on the blacktops outside just playing basketball, just like being what kids are supposed to do.
Right.
So it was just a lot of the noise that you would hear from time to time, but we honestly we didn't hear it. We were
Well, that's
just
good to
there.
hear.
We were
Good.
really just
Yeah.
there.
Staying in the moment, for
Yeah.
sure. And it certainly worked for you guys. You guys have all turned out to be great guys and certainly have had a lot of success in a lot of ways, which we'll cover here. So let's start to think about that next step. What was your recruiting like? And you mentioned earlier, maybe even as early as sophomore year, starting to hear some things from some people and eventually chose Duquesne. How did that eventually kind of rise to the top for you?
So my first offer came my sophomore year. It was after we played CBC at home from Illinois State. And then it kind of slowed down. I got a couple more throughout that year, and then it kind of slowed down. But my junior year summer, I played for Gateway, which is I think they're Under Armour now, but they were Adidas at the time. And it was my first summer playing on what we call the circuit, which means like it's a sponsored team, a brand sponsored team, and you play in tournaments everywhere against other brand sponsored teams. And all the college coaches that mostly have that brand come to recruit. That's when I learned business 101.
I bet.
But that was my first time, playing against guys that were really ranked because I didn't play with the Eagles because that was, if I'm being honest, my summers, they used to be like, Mike, come play with us. No. My summers, I'm going to go develop because one day I'm not going to have all of this on my team. I'm going to have to learn how to defend myself. You know what I mean? So my summers were for me. So that summer was the first time I played on that type of circuit, and I think I picked up maybe 25 scholarship offers in a month. And it was overwhelming if I'm being completely honest, because I'm like, okay, I know National Signing Days in October. There's no way I'm about to build 25 different relationships in 4 or 5 months. There's just no way. So I remember when I got an offer from Duquesne, Jim Ferry was there at the time, and we were in Vegas. It was right after a game, and I had told my mom. She was in the other room. And I was like, "Hey, mom, Duquesne just called. I got an offer from them." That was one of the first schools she was excited to hear about.
Hmm.
So it's just immediately like, why are you excited about them? Like they were last in the A10 the past 5 years straight. Like, you know, but she gave me the history of the school. Again, Catholic institution. I didn't know that at the time, as well as really good academic school, right? That's all my mom really cares about. And I was like, okay. So what I'm hearing, it kind of sounds like Chaminade. Just, of course, you add co-ed and all that, it's college, but it has a similar energy and a similar flow as where I've come from. So that immediately raised it to the top of my list, just because, like I said, I'm a consistency person. I know if I'm around this type of environment, I work this way, I get this result, right? It's copy and paste. So that was one thing that raised it to the top of my list immediately. And then, of course, you do your official visits. And once I was there, got downtown Pittsburgh. It didn't remind me of downtown St. Louis, but in a way it did. It was smaller, quiet. It's not too much going on. University of Pitt was down the street, so you had access to a bigger group if you really wanted to. So it kind of reminded me again of this bubble. And then, of course, the coaches were like, as you see, we haven't had the best performances in the past few years. So of course you have to earn your spot, but you could be playing a lot of minutes as a freshman. Whereas some of the other schools that were, a lot bigger were like, oh, your freshman year, you might redshirt. Because at the time, I mean, I'm not the biggest guy now, but I have gotten a lot bigger and stronger and faster. But at the time, I was fast, but I wasn't the strongest guy. And if I'm going to play in the SEC or in the ACC, like athleticism is a big deal. So I didn't want to have to just practice for a year. That sounded like torture to me.
I can
Especially when
imagine.
you could be out there helping and all of that type of stuff when someone is like, yeah, you got to earn your spot, but here are the keys if you really want it. So that's kind of what made my mind up. Um, and then yeah, that's what made me
Yeah.
ultimately make my
Was there any,
decision.
I remember hearing a little buzz about, was there any places that you kind of hoped would have offered? I know some people had said at the time, hey, SLU should have given you more looks or more, was there any sort of, any place you kind of really hoped that you didn't get an offer or it didn't work out for? Not that I'm not
Yeah,
asking you to talk bad about anybody by any means, but
no, but yeah, no, SLU. I was very like vocal about that in my recruit process. Like if SLU offers, I'm accepting the day that they offer. Why? I don't know because when the second group came in. I forgot his name. It's the guy that just left before whoever they hired now.
Travis
It
Ford.
literally Travis Ford. Yes.
Yeah.
As soon as he got there, he was like, "Transfer, Mike, transfer." And I was like, "Nah, it's too late." But that also was another reason why I wanted to go to Duquesne because I knew I get to play SLU twice a year.
Oh, wow, you wanted your
And
revenge, huh?
100%. And I had my best games every time versus them. So
Gotcha. Well, we don't need to dwell on that. Let's dwell on the positives here. So, yeah, you went to Duquesne and got to make an impact right away. I was looking at your stats. You played in all 32 games your freshman year, started 31 of them, led the team in scoring with 14.1 points per game. So, did it? Maybe this doesn't sound bad. Was the transition easy as it seems like it was, or was it a struggle? What was that transition to college and especially college basketball life like?
so from basketball perspective, yeah, the transition was seamless. I've in my younger years, I kind of struggled with my self confidence and my ability. Um, and when I got to college that summer, it was the first time I was, of course, away from all of the craziness that our team had in high school, and I was more by myself. And I didn't really realize it really clicked like, oh, I'm actually really good at this game, right? Like I don't have to take a smaller role to fit the group. And like, no, I can just really be who I am. So within the first week, I knew immediately, like, okay, I am a lot better at basketball than I thought I was. Like, now let me kind of adjust to this. I would say the hardest part was my first workout in college. I did almost want to quit. I can't tell a lie because it was. I think I trained her 100%. He did it on purpose, but just from again the physicality standpoint, I'm just like, I don't know if I can play at this level. Like these dudes is way too strong. The game was so fast. I never forget we did a 30-minute workout. It was so fast. Like how people were moving, the aggressiveness. I'm just like, yeah, I think I made a mistake. Maybe I need to go to a smaller school. But then my mom was like, no, you'll be fine. You adjust at all times. You always adjust. Like, just stay course, work out, work extra, do what you do. Give yourself a month. And it didn't even take a month. I think in 2 weeks we had a pickup, open gym session with the team, and it just started to click and it started to flow and all the work that we had put in high school, and it just started to started to come out. And then that's when I was like, okay, I can do this. And then you start working harder. Then the game started, the season happens. But yeah, the games though. Once the season started, yeah, it was easy. It was seamless for sure. Seamless
Awesome. Yeah,
transition.
you bring up a good point that I think I don't have your Chaminade average, but I think maybe you averaged more for those first couple years of college points per game, didn't you, than you were averaging at Chaminade, right?
Oh, for sure.
In terms
I
of
think
being a role player,
almost
and now you
double.
can more be the focal point. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, almost double for sure. So
pretty impressive there. You then it seemed like I believe you had a similar situation of a coaching change though, right after your freshman year.
yeah, I
So you
did.
had another little hump, just like you did at the beginning of the time at Chaminade to deal with. Same kind
Yep.
of question as that. Was it always going to stick at Duquesne for you, or were you going to begin to look around, or what did that mean to you,
Mhm.
that coaching change?
So that coaching change was different. right? And this is when, and if to all the youngins that watch this, if you do, this is when I learned business versus your passion, right? They go together, but then they don't. So once my coach Jim Ferry, who recruited me, that staff got released. Other coaching staff had came in. I was hearing rumblings, from people that kind of have been in that situation, like, "Hey, Mike, you just had a great freshman year. You should transfer. You can go high major and let history be what it is." But having the same type of loyalty and ideology of same situation from Chaminade, I made the same decision, and that decision was to stay. All right. But then sophomore year was still fine. But then that next year is when the whole political and the business side hit me. And I didn't understand it. Right. So I learned then what you do with family, you can't do with everybody. Right. It's a big difference. But no, I would say definitely went through another coaching change. At first, it wasn't too bad. A couple of adjustments. We went from Adidas to Nike, so I love that. Everybody loves Nike. That was fun. But it was cool though. It was a learning curve. I'm glad I went through it because it's something that I actually communicate a lot, which we'll get to the foundation later. But it's something that I communicate a lot with young guys now, being able to understand the difference versus where you're really wanted versus where you're needed versus where you're tolerated. So yeah, we'll get into that later. But
Yeah, because
I did want to stay. I did want to stay at Duquesne. I wanted to finish all 4 years there, which I did end up finishing, getting my degrees there as well. But I wanted to, ride it out the traditional way. But business is business.
yeah, because your junior year, then you end up not playing as much, left
Mm,
mid-season, I believe, right? Is that right?
yep. Left
Went to
mid-season.
Hop to Nevada. Then there was talk of you coming back to SLU for a while, I think, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then
It was.
then decide to
So
turn pro.
let me tell you this story. So yeah, leaving Christmas time, my junior year of college. I go to University of Nevada, Reno, who had they season before just went to the Sweet 16, made a great name for themselves. So I want go be part of that type of infrastructure because I want anybody that plays the regional basketball wants to play in March Madness. It's a dream.
Of course.
So, but I get there Christmas time. That May, he leaves.
Oh,
That coaching staff
another
leaves.
coaching change.
So I'm just like, I'm praying. I'm just like, yo, what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't win for losing here. But again, that's another lesson as far as how business works. But then that's when I was like, okay, I'm just gonna. That's when Coach Ford was like, just come home. So I was like, all right. So I come home. We're about to announce it, and they get a phone call, and it's like, yo, NCAA just called us because I was gonna get a waiver to play immediately since I was coming back home. And he's like, yeah, NCAA called. They're not going to grant your waiver. I'm like, why? Like, this is anybody that just saw what happened to me in the past 7 months. Like, this is just obvious, right? It's textbook waiver. They got a call from an anonymous tip that technically, since I was only at University of Nevada, Reno for a semester, my transfer outside of the A10 didn't fully count. So it looked like I transferred from conference to conference, school to school.
Uh,
Is at the time was an automatic 2 year sit out period,
oof.
right? This is before all these loophole gray areas and
Right. Things have changed in the last
NILs now they've
7 years
changed,
for
right?
sure. Right.
So that was during that time. So they were like, well, like, no, we can fight it, but you're for sure probably gonna have to sit this 1 year out. Again, like go back to my freshman year. I'm not sitting out a year to just practice. That's horrible. I love practicing. You got to work hard and all that stuff, but you need a game to show this. I'm not doing this for a year. So that's when I was like, you know what? I'm fed up. Like enough's enough. I had a great freshman sophomore year, so I'm going to try to go pro just off of this. I know it's a far shot, but I give it to God, and it is what it is at that point. So that's how that whole situation went.
So what's yeah, I mean, anybody making a leap into their pro career is certainly a leap. It's a whole new world. You're making a pretty big leap, kind of coming off a little bit of a rough season, a little bit of time away from playing, um, not being in high profile that year before, the months right before. So how'd your pro career take off? Where'd you, I admit I tried to track through kind of where you'd been, but you've been everywhere for
Yeah,
the
for
last
sure.
7 years. So how did that get rolling? How'd the ball get rolling in terms of your pro career?
So after the school thing goes through, I get a phone call from the athletic director at Duquesne, kind of like, apologizing to the whole situation because it was like the first domino of the domino effect. They're like, so you were close to finishing your degree here, so we'll let you finish. And I ended up finishing with a bachelor's in psychology and communications. I ended up double majoring. So during that period, I was just doing online classes. So that October, after the whole college shenanigans, I was supposed to actually play for the Dallas Mavs G League team. Talked to the GM. I had a private workout. They saw that I was, still in shape. Of course, I was still working out and everything. And they were like, okay, like, we know he has good character. We know his background, who's connected to all this type of stuff. So, yeah, we'll give him a chance. Draft day comes for the G League in October. This is October of 2019. Yes, October of 2019. So on draft day, they said he had the third pick in the G League draft and I think like 17th pick in the G League draft. They're like, we're going to take him one of the two first round. Cool. So we have a little get together and everything. Third pick comes, they pick a guard. Um, you're not picking two guards. Like I'm,
Not
I'm
usually.
not like I'm right. I called my agent at the time, like, yo, what's going on? Oh, bro, I apologize. I got in an argument with the GM this morning. I'm like, about what?
Oh no.
He's like, about said some stuff that had nothing to do with me.
Oh.
Something from 15 years ago that they were dealing with. So he decided I'm going to pick this other agent I'm friends with because, again, business. I'm like, yo, bro, like, and that's what I'm just like, okay, is basketball not for me anymore? If I'm being completely honest, I'm just like, okay, maybe this strike three. I'm just about to go corporate and figure it out at this point. But as during that period from October until March of 2020, I'm finishing my online classes, finishing my degrees and everything. I go back up to Duquesne's campus, and my ex-girlfriend at the time, my girlfriend at the time, my ex-girlfriend now, she was Hungarian, right? And she played basketball at Duquesne. We were same class and everything, and we had a great relationship at the time. And she was telling me, Mike, I'm gonna get you a overseas gig, and I had been hearing this almost a whole year at this point. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? So what saved me though, which is this is going to be crazy. COVID happens. When COVID happens, the whole country shuts down. I'm in Pittsburgh at the time. Me and her, we drive down to Houston because my mom had moved back to Houston from St. Louis at the time because everybody's like, "Oh, Mike, you're about to play for the Mavs G League team. You're back home. We're all moving back home." So she's down there already. So we go down. We finish up. We end up graduating that summer, graduate at the same time. And then she has signed her first deal in Hungary. She's Hungarian national team player, all of that. Big fish in Hungary. Makes a phone call and to the top, one of the teams in their top league. And they're like, well, he hasn't played in a while. And she's like, he's in shape. Bring him in for a workout and you'll see. What saved me though was, especially it being a top league team, normally you had to come right out of college to get that type of position. But what saved me was COVID. The budgets dropped tremendously in Europe.
Mhm.
So the type of players that they normally would go get, they're not going to be able to get this year because of COVID, and then they don't have the money to pay them. But me, I'm just like, I just want a chance.
Right.
So we end up agreeing to come in for like a month trial period. Within the first 2 days, they saw I was in shape. So I kept working on my game. They were like, "Oh, we hit a gym. We found a gym here."
Mhm.
So I made $20,000 my first year, right?
Well,
And that was the opportunity that I needed, and the rest is history. After that, I
you're
haven't
one of
looked
the
back.
you're one of the few people in the world maybe who COVID was a great thing for, right?
Yeah,
Who
until I got
benefited
it.
from
The
it.
year after I actually got it, and then it was like, oh no,
Oh,
never
right.
mind.
Exactly. It was funny. A guy I was talking to is an alum from 1970s, but his business, we were talking about his business, and his business actually had a benefit from COVID. He did this thing and it shifted his business focus and such. So interesting that, yeah, there are, it's certainly a horrible thing in many, many ways, but yes, certainly some people kind of, in a way, benefited from it. So yeah, as I mentioned, you've been, if my bio is correct here, if all the cities or all the countries are correct, you've been in Germany, Hungary, Israel, Italy, Lithuania, Poland, Qatar, and now France. I believe maybe that's the whole list. So just to kind of in general, what's the journey? What's the experience like? What are some of the challenges of picking up, moving overseas? Obviously, language barrier, cultural differences, basketball differences, I'm sure, but how does a young guy deal with all that?
So my first year Hungary, I was just, grateful to be in the room. So it was tough because, like you said, you have to just pack your life, which is kind of like going from high school to college, especially if you go out of state. But now you're out of the country. So I think the hardest thing for me to adjust to really, because I was already kind of used to not seeing family as much just because of all the AU traveling growing up. Then at Chaminade, we had a national schedule. So we was traveling then. And then I go 7 hours away from St. Louis to go to college, and I'm way super far away from Houston. So I kind of already built up that resiliency as far as not seeing family as much. But when you're out of the country, what first hit me was the difference in food,
Hmm.
right? The time difference. Jet lag is, I don't even know how to explain it to this day, but it's something that is like, whoa, this feels crazy. And then I would say language barrier would be the third. Going from even just like if you're in a regular restaurant or a coffee shop, you may not be listening to what people are saying next to you, but it's English. Like you can if you want. So going from just having that your whole life to now I'm in a coffee shop and I'm hearing something completely different. You have no idea what's being said. It's like, whoa, right? It's a shock. So those three things I would say were like the biggest, like, oh wow, okay, I need to get used to this. But inside of the basketball community, your coaches, they speak English. Some better than others, depending on where you are, but they speak English. Teammates, they speak English. So it's not as bad inside your little group, which again, going back to Chaminade days, like you're used to being in a small group anyway. It doesn't bother us as much. Um, so it's not as hard to adjust, but yeah, I would say that. And then not even driving necessarily because most of the street signs were just, now I think about it's kind of crazy. Or most of the street signs are always in English. Sometimes they have, a street name or something that's in their language, but it's stop signs are still stop signs, red lights still red lights.
Sure.
So that was pretty easy as well. But I would say, yeah, food.
Just maybe this is a little specific or a little insider, but how much support does the organization give you, or do they give you for that transition and for helping you learn the language or helping those kind of things for your life outside? Just kind of take us kind of inside or behind the scenes, I guess, a little bit there. Or is there much support, or is it like, hey, you're here to play basketball, good luck?
It's a little bit of both. It depends where you are. Some places are more catering than others, right? And of course, the higher level you go, they're more catering. But I would say for the most part, no. It's if you need something to ask, you're not from here. Especially you have good teammates. Like they're like, we got you. If you need to ask. But at the same time, you're a professional, and we're all grown men. So you might have like my first year, I had like three 34 or 35-year-olds on my team. They had like three, four kids apiece. Like
Hmm.
they're real life grown men. So now mine started early as far as the overseas is concerned. At 22, I'm going back to my apartment. I'm just like, well, okay, practice is over. What am I going to do today? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, going to play so many video games, watch so many movies. So then it kind of, okay, let me go out into the community and get to know people, go to coffee shops, build relationships. They may teach you a couple words, whatever, whatever. So that's when you kind of just gotta just be an adult and just get out in the world
Right.
and
Jump
kind of
into
figure
it
it out. Yeah.
for sure. So you were in Germany last year, I believe. Is that right? Were you just there for one
Hmm.
year or multiples?
1 year. Yep.
1 year in Wurzburg, and that was in the first division, German league, right?
Hmm.
Bundesliga.
Hmm. Yep.
I saw a little thing that's where Dirk Nowitzki started too. Is that right?
It is actually in our practice facility. It was a big old poster of Dirk. Yeah, he's a Warrisburg legend. So
That's his place. And then now you're in Gravelines. Is that correct?
mhm.
Excuse my
Rob Lees.
pronunciation.
No, it's perfect. That sounds better than how I say it. So yes, no, that's right.
So why the move, or what was this move about? How come you ended
Mhm.
up in France this year?
So how Europe works is you start off in like smaller leagues, and then year in and year out, you grow. And the best ones make it to Euro League, which is the NBA of Europe. Europe is different than America. America, they value youth, right? Like NBA, I think average age in NBA now is like 22 or 23 or something like that. The Euro League, the average age is 30
Oh,
because the game is more of a teamwork and IQ based game. You can only get this type of IQ by playing European basketball for a long period of time. That's it. So the reason you see Hungary, Poland, Italy, second division Italy, Lithuania slash Israel, Germany, France is because I've been working up this ladder. Um, so the reason I came here this year is because being in France, I think we have 18 teams in our league. We have 5 EuroLeague teams in the league. So you can imagine the competition, how the competition level versus, okay, let's say Germany, which is a slight step underneath France, and it has 3 EuroLeague teams, right? And then they have some other European competition names, but that's just confusing for right now. No, don't worry about that. But so that's why you see the every year something different. And I've been, good enough and blessed enough to be able to work up the chain as well. So now this year, I actually have a EuroLeague buyout in my contract. We're finally starting to get some eyes and some looks. So you just got to stay course, just like with anything else. But that's why you see the change and why I would go from Würzburg to Gravelines this year. And then you'll see something else probably next year. But probably, if I had to guess correctly, start next year, you'll probably see me 2-year contracts, 3-year contracts, and be in one place a little longer because I pretty much have gotten to where I need to be.
interesting. You're at about the top of the chain there, or close to it at
Exactly.
least. Good for you. That's
Exactly.
awesome. I just want you to elaborate just a little bit more on what you were starting to say about the difference between the basketball in, say, the U.S., the NBA, the G League versus European basketball. Just elaborate a little bit more, if you will, on that sort of IQ basketball versus maybe the sort of physical or natural talent that comes with that, and how does that? What's some examples of how that might manifest itself, or if we actually came to a game, would we see the difference? Notice the difference?
Yeah, if you came to a game one, you would see the crowd is a lot more intense because the fans here have like a lot more pride in every game. Not we just because we playing Steph and LeBron are playing tonight. And no, every game means something. So that would be the first thing. Second thing is the physicality. It's a lot more physical. Refs let you play a lot more. I think because guys are older, so the game's a little slower and it's more team oriented pass. And then of course, they have Americans on teams because they need scoring. Everybody needs a score, right? But for the most part, in the midst of this, is still not like a James Harden in 2016 dribble, step backs, 82
Mhm.
games all year. All right. You may have a couple moments where you have to do that, but for the most part, we're running the play. You have to understand how defenses are formed. I would say a better example would be when you watch Nikola Jokic play and watch Luka play, you see a difference. You
Mhm.
see how they operate in specific angles, specific passes. Oh, how did he see that? Well, because the help side he was too close to me, so I know he's going to be open here because if he's not, then we're going to go hire somebody that knows to be open in this position.
In that spot, right?
You know, versus like I say, James Harden,
Right.
2016. nobody can name anybody that was on his team,
Right. Right.
but we all know what he
Yeah.
did. You know
So
what
the
I mean?
systems are
So
it's more system basketball in that sense.
more system, yeah, it's way more system based. And I would also say in the US, players have all the power. In Europe, coaches have the power.
Interesting.
Right? Every Not every coach has a different system, but like every region that the coach is from has a specific ideology. So if you like your agent's like, oh, this team wants you. Okay, do they have a Serbian coach or a Croatian coach or like a French coach? What kind of coach do they have? Like that's like a question you ask. Oh, they have a
Interesting.
Spanish coach. Oh, this team's gonna like to run. So
Interesting.
that type of ordeal.
Interesting. So, just a couple more topics I want to cover. I don't want to keep you all day. I appreciate your time. But tell us a little bit about how it came to be that you became a Qatari citizen and played on the Qatar national team in the Asia Cup in 2023 and in 2025 too. How'd that come about?
So right towards the end of my second year in Poland, um, my agent got called me and he was like, and it's funny because I was taking a nap. And this story is hilarious to me because anyone that knows me knows just don't bother him while he's asleep. But he called me like four times. I'm just like, bro, what? Like, what do you want? He's Qatar wants you to join their national team. I'm like, who? I knew what national team meant, by being in Europe a couple of years, but I'm just like, who? Like, he's like, they're an hour away from Dubai. All right, I'm up. I'm listening. Like, I'm listening. You have my attention. But then fast forward to about maybe I think a month later, I go out there for the first time, and I have a sit down with pretty much members of their government and basketball team because like national team, it's government based. It's not just a regular club. So they laid out the plan. They were like, first, thanks for accepting the offer. We picked you out of 150 other guys, and I was just like, oh, so this is serious. Okay, cool. Let me see what's going on here. But then they just wrote out a plan. They said we liked your game because yeah, you're super talented, but we can tell that you play for the team. Versus a lot of guys, I'm trying to go get 25, get my money, and go home. We can just tell that you don't have that type of spirit. And I'm just like, interesting. Okay, cool. So that was the first step. And then after that, the plan was what you just said, what you've seen was so we had to do pre-qualifiers of Asia Cup and then Asia Cup qualify, all that stuff to get to the tournament that just happened in August, the Asia Cup tournament, which I had to miss because I had a MCL sprain this summer. But the plan was to build a team that can compete in the 2027 World Cup because Qatar hosts the World Cup in 2027. So the host team already makes it, but we want to actually win some games, not just we're here just because you're the host team. So that was the long plan. They had a great group of like 18, 19-year-olds at the time, some 17. And they knew I would be growing in Europe year in and year out, as well as having some slight experience, but still being young enough to when we get to 2027, you're entering your prime. Um, so that's the long plan. So World Cup 2027, and then the last thing, which probably will be my last time playing for a national team, will be in 2030, and that's in the Asian Games, which I believe are in Shanghai, China.
Hmm?
And our goal is to finish top 3 there, because once we do that, then it'll give them their clearance and stuff they need to be able to help the next generation to revamp
Right.
and to grow Qatar as a
Right.
basketball nation or as a basketball superpower in the Middle East. That's their goal, is to be number one in that region.
All right.
So yeah, they put me a part of that big master plan. And then of course to be part of someone's national team, you have to be a resident and a
Yeah,
citizen.
that's what I was going to say. What the logistics behind that? How does that
Yeah.
work? How do you become a Qatari citizen and you don't have to have any ancestral or heritage?
No, you don't. So what they did at first, they gave me they made me naturalized at first, which means they gave me a passport and then I have like kind of like an asterisk. But now that I've been holding my passport for 3 years, in their laws, if you've been holding a naturalized passport for 3 years, then we can consider you a local. So
Gotcha.
that's why now, if on a Google profile it says Michael, and then it says American flag, Qatari flag
Right,
now,
I've seen that. Right, yeah.
because I've been holding my passport for 3 years now. So now I'm considered a local with the residency and all that good stuff. So
Gotcha.
it makes it now where they could go get another American if they want to make him naturalized since I have my local tag, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense.
I
So
see. Right.
how does it all the way work? Powerful people knowing powerful people, of course. That's above me. Like I say all the time, that's above my pay grade personally, the details. But like that's some of the contingencies that I do know that how it goes on.
Interesting. So when's the next time you'll be back with them? Or what's the next
November
tournament?
actually. November because we start World Cup qualifiers, even though like I said, we already be there because we're the host team, but you still
Mhm.
gotta go through the process. They make you do it anyway.
Gotcha.
So I'll see those guys again in November and in February for about 2 weeks, and then I'll come back to France and then
Gotcha.
go back. Yeah. So
Well, talking about this and looking forward even to 2030, you were saying with potentially with them and sort of continuing to rise up the chain in European basketball. What are kind of some future goals? Is it to get to the highest level in Europe? Is that the ultimate goal? What's the next few years in a dream world look like for you?
yeah, my next few years definitely look like getting to EuroLeague. So I have no shame in that. I'm a few games away at this point, if I'm being honest. And then, no, if not, then see what the Asian market's like. We've been getting some calls from like China and places like that, but
Mm.
I didn't because once you kind of do that in the basketball world, then it's hard to come back. It's just a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
So
so like two separate worlds completely, right? I
two
mean,
separate worlds completely. So I'm still only 27. You know what I mean? So it's my 6th year as a pro, but and I'm still only 27. So I got a couple more years to see if I can crack EuroLeague before I make that jump. And then outside of that, I would say, getting guitar with what we've been working on this long. So far, it's been so good. Everything's going according to plan. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I don't, I'm not, I got away from kind of setting major goals, right? Kind of just following your day to day process of what got you this far. Keep the main thing, and what's meant to happen is going to happen one way or the other. So just enjoy it as much as possible.
good for you. It seems to be working. So exactly, keep that up. Let's step outside basketball just a little bit, and this might be a part of your futures too. I want to talk about the foundation. You got this Young Kings Foundation. Tell us more about that, how it got started, and kind of what the mission and the goals are for that.
Mhm. So it got started. Um, I'll say probably about a good 2 years ago is when I started actually making some phone calls to try to make it happen. But it was something I kind of thought of my first year overseas because you have so much just downtime as just a professional athlete in general. I didn't want to waste it. So I was doing a lot of learning just in business and what type of person I wanted to be after basketball. And I ended up meeting one of my partners, who actually she lives in St. Louis, and she's like, Mike, you know too much, right? Like you're a great person first and foremost. Everyone that knows you knows that you're a lot wiser than I don't know if you realize, but in your age, and you know a lot, right? So you know, start a foundation. And I was like, I don't know, like I don't have time to manage it and this and all that type of stuff. But fast forward past that, she was right. And I prayed on it, and that's the same thing I got. So what it is, the Young Kings Foundation, it focuses on young men, of course. This Shamna ideology is definitely pretty much the foundation of what my foundation is. If for long story short, and then the hyper focus is generational wealth, right? When people normally hear that, they think, "Oh, I'm not going to be Jeff Bezos." Like, I'm not telling you to be Jeff Bezos. If you can get your foundation and principles in order, and some people have millions of dollars, some have hundreds of thousands, some have 40,000, right? But if you can be disciplined with the things you need versus the things you want for a long period of time, I can guarantee you'll be a lot further than what you think that you can, right? So the foundation is to teach young men that, not just even necessarily about money and basketball or football or whatever, but life in general, right? If you tell a young lady you guys are going to be monogamous. If you have a doubt in yourself that that's not going to happen, then don't sign up for
Mhm.
it. But be honest in whatever you do, and that will take you wherever you want to go. So those teachings, those ideologies, and of course that comes with, like I said, like I have my life insurance firm. So of course some products of that would be life insurance and business consultations and all that type of stuff. But what the nucleus of it is Estovir, pretty much. So everything that you guys taught us, as a youth growing up, I'm taking that and applying it to the masses. There's no point of being an athlete and a worldwide athlete at this point, having access to all of these different countries and people there, and not trying to instill something and build something. So that's what the Young Kings Foundation is.
Interesting, yeah. And that's a great transition to maybe my last two things here I wanted to ask you is number one, what do you think you've gotten personally, intellectually, socially from your 7 years overseas? How has that helped you grow as a young man yourself?
It's helped me find myself in a lot of different ways because when you're in different cultures, you're still you, but you have to find a different part of you, right? So I've played in 7 countries, but I've been to like almost 30 because traveling with national team, you go to different countries. And then I had a couple of years where we traveled, inside of Europe, just playing games. So I've been almost 30 countries. And the one thing that I have realized is we're a lot more alike than we think
Hmm.
because of all the social media propaganda. And, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. But life is life everywhere. We all have problems. We all have insecurities. We all have dreams and admirations. And there are a lot of good people in the world. Social media makes it seem like we're all just going at each other all the time. It's not the case, actually. It's actually the complete opposite. So I kind of want to be the person that bridge. Of course, you can't bridge the gap on with the whole world, but try to bridge my gap with the network that I can build as best as possible. Um, and I don't want to get too many gems away right now, but yeah, that's the ideology behind it. That's how
Great.
all of these countries have helped me really find myself in different ways, and in a lot faster too. Because, like I said, you're removed from which all you've known for 9, 10 months out of the year. Plus, with the scheduling, you have so much free time, like you don't have a choice but to look yourself in the mirror after a while. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at now.
That's great. That's great. Well, you just brought it up a minute ago, so let's finish up, wrap up today with the question I always ask everybody, all my guests at the end of our interviews, is to reflect on our school motto at Chaminade, Estovir, to be a man. So, how has Estovir lived out in your life? How has it impacted your life, or what does it mean to you now as a 27-year-old living overseas? What's the meaning of Estovir for Mikey Lewis?
Well, I know we're not technically supposed to have tattoos, but I do actually have it right here on my thumb, and I see it
I love it.
all the time. Um, what does it really mean at this point? I would say that's a great question. I know you said it earlier, but I actually have to think about it right now. It's it means more than, of course, just the definition of be a man. Be a man, and it has, like, I think of the diagram of Mr. Denora, right? It has so many different antennas attached to it. But at the end, I think what it always means is don't be afraid to be yourself. It doesn't mean like be full of yourself, not listen to people, but don't be afraid to be who you are. Be confident in that. God made you your way for a reason. So figure out what that reason is. Like that's your obligation to figure out their reason. And just be a person of your word. Be a man. We talk about men at this point. So be a man of your word, but just be a person of your word. If you say you're gonna do something, do it. If you say you're not gonna do something, don't do it. Now, is that always super easy to do? Of course not. We're all humans, but I really believe in the more you truly live in that, even when things are going crazy, like the whole college situation for me, for example, like things find a way to work themselves out, right? And if you're out trying to, lie and cheat and steal and do all these things, you may get away with it in the short time, but you're never getting away with it in the long term,
Hmm.
right? This is a long term game. This life is about a journey. So I think that is probably what it means to me at this point. It's more of a lifestyle now than it is just a saying.
For sure. Wonderful. And one you're keeping with you literally on your body, on your hand every day, see it every moment of your life. So wise words, and I agree with your business partner who said that about you in terms of your wisdom, your knowledge that you have, and thanks for sharing some of that with us today. And good luck this season in France and
Thank you.
in future years as you're hopefully moving up the ladder, as you said.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and thanks to all our listeners as well who listened today, and you'll be hearing more, hopefully great Hilltop episodes coming in the near future.